I think the Iowa Hawkeyes won the transfer portal battle throughout the entire Big Ten. How'd your favorite team do? I'll tell you. Locked On Big Ten starts now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for joining us each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, and we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to talk about how Iowa out-portaled everybody, the rest of the Big Ten as well, and our Big Ten power rankings today. Look at the defensive lines around the conference. Be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, we're going to run it down here. Now, I'm not going to mention every player that came in the portal, but we're going to look at the key ones for every single team, and I'm going to give you my thoughts here at the end. Starting off with Michigan. Michigan had to fill some spaces up front. A couple of transfers coming in on the offensive line. Ladarius Henderson comes in from Arizona State, 6'5", 310, 29 career starts. Versatile, can play both guard and tackle. Going to be a very important piece of that Michigan offense, as is Drake Nugent, the center. He's coming in from Stanford, probably right into the starting lineup at 6'2", 306 pounds, and he is a two-time All Pac-12 honorable mention. Plus, they're going to bring in Josh Wallace from UMass at right corner to help out there. Ohio State, interesting. They really don't have anybody coming in the transfer portal that's going to step into their starting lineup. Why? Well, maybe one of the reasons is they have 16 all Big Ten players returning to the lineup. 16. Not a lot of room for transfer portal, not a lot of need for transfer portal. As far as any starters, if you will, their long snapper, John Furlman from Arizona State, a sophomore coming in. That is going to be about it for this football team. Penn State, again, not a lot of needs for Penn State, but they do have wide receiver Dante Cephas. He comes in from Kent State. He's first team All-MAC. He's a player to watch now. In 2022, 48 catches, 744 yards, 3 touchdowns in just 9 games. But in 2021, had 82 catches, 1,240 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He was the first Kent State receiver with over 1,000 yards since 1997, and he is on the Biletnikoff Award watch list. And this is a kid that was at a smaller school. Nothing wrong with the MAC. Good quality football in the MAC. But he's going to come up and play in the Big Ten now, a higher level, at one of the best teams in the Big Ten. And I think he's going to be a big part of this offense for Penn State. They also get some help on special teams. Their punter, Riley Thompson's a transfer from Florida Atlantic, and their kicker, Alex Felkins, comes in from Columbia. Very important positions, no doubt about it. You got to have it, and particularly in close ball games. But that's about all that Penn State really did as far as any starters or impact players in the portal. Michigan State. They have defensive end Tumisi Adelaide. He's 6'4", 290 pounds, comes from Tompkins High School in Katy, Texas. Went to Texas A&M for Jimbo Fisher at first, sat out 2020 because of COVID, and it just wasn't working out. Moved on, goes to Michigan State. And this is important because this was a priority for Mel Tucker. In fact, if you watched either the Big Ten Media Day where he spoke or listened to us talk about it, high priority for Michigan State, front 7 on defense. So to shore up the defensive line and the linebackers for that matter with recruits, get some depth, transfer portal guys. And this is a key piece to that puzzle, somewhere they have to get better this year in East Lansing. Also on defense, Seymour Melvin, corner, comes in from Wisconsin, former 4-star player from St. Thomas Aquinas. And they also get a little help on special teams with kicker Jonathan Kim from North Carolina, going to lead their special teams at Michigan State. Rutgers, wide receiver Nyseam Brentley comes in from Western Illinois, all conference 3 times, 135 career catches, 2,154 yards, and 17 touchdowns. FCS second team All-American by Phil Steele. So here's another kid going to step up to a higher level of football and play in the Big Ten and play at Rutgers. And this is another piece of the puzzle, and a kid that has some talent. We'll see how he does at a higher level. Defensive tackle Isaiah Eiton comes in from Northern Colorado to help shore up that defensive front at 6'2", 290. And Flip Dixon, their strong safety on the back end of the defense, coming in from Minnesota. So goes from one Big Ten school to another. He played 30 games there at Minnesota, played a lot, but now he's going to back up that defense there for Rutgers and Greg Schiano. The Indiana Hoosiers. Interesting story here. And, everything's a copycat league. If this works, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, a disappointing season last year for the Hoosiers. So Tom Allen revamped everything. 26 new kids coming in from the transfer portal. We'll see. Can you bring in 26 kids, mix them all up, have them gel and play like a team right away? Or is it going to take a little while? It's going to be an interesting scenario. If it works, probably going to see more schools doing this, just revamping. They started quarterback with Taven Jackson. You all know the story. Trace Jackson Davis is his brother, now with the Golden State Warriors, the basketball player. But Jackson was, as a redshirt freshman, transferred from Tennessee, where he was backing up Hendon Hooker, who's now with the Detroit Lions. But Joe Milton came in from Michigan, so there really wasn't a place for them. Plus, he's from Indiana, went to Center Grove, and wants to play for the Hoosiers. A lot of talent, a dual threat guy, but he's so young. And in fact, all the quarterbacks on the Indiana depth chart are so young and lacking experience, and that's an important position. We'll have to see how quickly whoever emerges, if it's Jackson, to do well and get comfortable at quarterback. They also have wide receiver DeCasey Carter transferring in from Fordham. He's a fourth all-time in touchdown receptions with 31, and third all-time at Fordham in receiving yards with over 3,000. And he was first team All-Patriot League. Yet another kid getting to play in a bigger, stronger, more powerful conference with a better team. And we'll see if the big stats from the lower level of football translate into the Big Ten. Andre Carter helping to shore up the Hoosier defensive line at defensive end. He comes from Western Michigan. He's 6'5", 273 pounds. He's from Detroit. 2022, he was second team All-MAC. And this is a guy, he's just a stat filler. Last year, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, an interception, and a safety. He's all over the place. Tom Allen is going to love that kid. And he plays alongside Philip Bleedy, who comes from Texas Tech at defensive tackle. And middle linebacker, Jacob Mangum-Farrar, coming in from Stanford. Grew up in Sugar Land, Texas, had 10 tackles in the Notre Dame game last year. If he can duplicate that every week, that'd be fantastic. And both corners on both sides are brand new for the Hoosiers from the transfer portal. Jameer Johnson comes from Texas, grew up in Pasadena, California, and Nicholas Toomer on the right side from Stanford. Again, 26 kids from the Hoosiers coming in on the lineup this year, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly they all gel. Maryland, Talia Tonga-Boyola, not transferring, right? We did the whole thing, the podcast earlier this week. He was offered $1.5 million to transfer out to an SEC school, didn't take it. He's staying there, and he's getting a lot of help. Maybe that's why he's staying there. Corey Bullock is going to protect him up front at right guard. 6'4", 331 pounds out of North Central, all MEAC second team. Gottlieb Yedzi, a 6'5", 320-pound left tackle from Frostburg State, all MEC first team. His rushers behind him last year rushed for 2,100 yards and 28 touchdowns. And then Tyrese Chambers, this is one of the reasons Talia is staying. Comes in from FIU, two-time Biletnikoff Award watch list guy. 2 years, 96 catches, 1,618 yards, 13 touchdowns, and had 4 games with over 100 yards receiving. Caden Prather, another wide receiver, coming in from West Virginia. He's played 20 games. In 2 years, 64 catches, 676 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So Talia's got some weapons. He's got to be excited about it there. On the defensive side, nose tackle Jordan Phillips, 6'3", 311, going to fill up things on the defensive line. He comes from Tennessee. And Jaquan Shepard going to be at left corner. He comes from Cincinnati. Was side-by-side with Sauce Gardner, who's now with the Jets for 3 years. He was first team All-AAC, 10 pass breakups last year. Got another year of eligibility left. So that's the East. I still told you, I'm going to back it up. Iowa, though, did better than anybody else in the Big Ten. We'll run down all the teams in the West. And also later on, we'll rank all of our defensive lines as part of our weekly feature in our power rankings coming up All on the way right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, you're putting your team together with various players and transfer portals and recruits. Same thing happens in the office place at work. And sometimes you got to hire and bring in new people. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Got to find that right person that fits in just right. Do all this for free with LinkedIn Jobs. And create a job post. You add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring and what you're looking for. Simple tools like screening questions. They make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. That's the whole purpose. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So let's take a look at the West and the transfer portal. I'm going to start it off with Iowa, the team I've been talking up so much here. See if you agree with me. By the way, any of this, feel free to hit me up on @TalkBig10 on Twitter or any comments on YouTube. I was going through those earlier today before the podcast, trying to get caught up with all that. Love hearing from you. And while we're talking about it, by the way, if you haven't yet, subscribe down below. We on YouTube, we took over this channel about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, had a little over 1,000 that we inherited, and we were very grateful for every one of you. But we're quickly approaching 2,000 subscribers now, and I want to get that in the next week. I would love it and appreciate it if you do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe. You just click it, and that's it. And it's free, and we're all good to go. I'll tell you about that some more later, but I would love it if you did it. Iowa, you're getting quarterback Cade McNamara, comes in from Michigan. He's won a Big Ten title at Michigan as a starter, and he got to a college football playoff as a starter. Very good, very experienced, very steady. He just got beat up by a better guy that they recruited at Michigan, but he needed a place to go, and Iowa needs a quarterback. So, boom, he's there. And coming with him from Michigan, tight end Eric All, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a grad transfer with 2 years of eligibility left. Honorable mention All Big Ten in 2021. He was hurt in 2022. I think they'll have a little chemistry. They'll come into here together. And let's face it, Iowa's known for tight ends, and they already have a good one in Luke Lachey at 6'6", 250. And then bringing in some more size. And I think this guy is going to be a fan favorite there at Kinnick Stadium. Hayden Large. And the name fits. He's 6'5", 250. He's actually listed as a fullback, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. In fact, he caught 62 balls, 950 yards, and 12 touchdowns in his career at Dordt College. I had to look up where Dordt College was. Didn't even know it. If you're from Iowa, I apologize. You all know Sioux Center, Iowa is where Dordt College is. And now he's playing at Iowa. Can you imagine the goal line stances for Iowa on offense when you've got Eric All and Luke Lachey anchoring the tight end positions and Hayden Large, wherever they put him in the backfield or the slot or whatever? It's going to be amazing. And look, I've talked a lot about Iowa here in the summertime during our first few podcasts. And last year, their defense was up here. Okay. And then they lost some players to the NFL. They had some talent, but they've replaced a lot of them. I think their defense is still up here. But the offense was down here last year, and it really dragged them down, actually, for the last 2 years, if you want to be honest about it. So if Cade McNamara and company can just – all they really need to be asked to do is get the offense to here with the defense here, and they can be so much better, and they can make things so much easier on the defense, and they can win those close games. And look, they won a few games last year. I'm not kidding, but you can really get on a roll, I think, if you're Iowa. I really like this team. If Cade McNamara can just – I don't want to say just make a mediocre on offense, because I know they're going to be striving higher than that. But if they can just do that, I think it's going to be a way better football team. And that's why I have Iowa as the best team in the transfer portal with the guys they got, the quality of guys they got at the positions they got them at, and the players and how they're going to use them. I think it'll make all the difference in the world. And that's why I say Iowa did a better job than anybody else in the Big Ten in the transfer portal. That's not to say that the other teams didn't do a great job. We've already run down a list of teams already, and we have some more to go. A lot of interesting ones in the West, by the way. Take a look at Wisconsin. Tanner Mordecai coming in. This guy was at Oklahoma and SMU. Got tired of waiting around at Oklahoma. He was behind Kyler Murray, and then Jalen Hurts. Decided to go to SMU, threw 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions and 3,500 yards. And now he's coming to play for Luke Fickell at Wisconsin and get that offense rolling. He'll be protected by Jake Renfro, the center, also from Cincinnati. Luke Fickell from Cincinnati, 6'4", 316, was injured last year. In 2021, he was all AAC first team. Also coming from Cincinnati for Luke Fickell is wide receiver, slot receiver Will Pauling. 9 games, 12 catches, very modest, but obviously Luke Fickell likes him and brought him with him. At Nickelback, Jason Miter coming from Boston College, and Nathaniel Vakos is their kicker from Ohio. Freshman year, 19 of 23 in field goals and 48 of 49 in extra points. A lot of teams, there's a handful of teams in the Big Ten that have gotten new kickers in the transfer portal. Probably one of the coach's biggest frustrations is kickers who can't kick, and they got to replace them, or they graduate or move on. At Northwestern, you got a feel for every kid at Northwestern that transferred in. You know, they're looking for a place to go. They go, all right, Northwestern, let's go. And then the hazing scandal happens, and you just have to feel for. I think since there was a coaching change, they're inside a 30-day period and when they can transfer out. But where are they going to go at this point of the season? You got Ben Bryant, quarterback, coming in here. He's bounced back and forth between Cincinnati and Eastern Michigan and Cincinnati, and now he's going to Northwestern. And everything blows up on him. So he's still there. They got a slot receiver in A.J. Henning from Michigan. He can also return kicks and punts. Cam Johnson, a wide receiver from Arizona State and Vanderbilt. He's bounced around a little bit, looking for a home. Comes to Northwestern. Boom, hazing scandal. And defensive tackle Matt Lawson comes from Fresno State. So we wish all these kids well under the circumstance that they have found themselves in at Northwestern and hope for the best. Nebraska is another team I'm going to look at here. High praise for Iowa. Nebraska, I think Matt Rhule is doing some nice things, both recruiting and with the transfer portal. Now he's bringing in Jeff Sims. This is kind of a rolling the dice thing here a little bit. Jeff Sims was at Georgia Tech. Very modest numbers, 5,500 yards of total offense in 3 years. If it works, it's going to be great. If not, maybe they have to find somebody else. But Jeff Sims out of Georgia Tech will be the quarterback for Matt Rhule's first team at Nebraska. He'll be protected by Ben Scott at center, who comes in from Arizona State. He's 6'5", 300 pounds, played 28 games there. He's a native of Honolulu. Now he's in Lincoln, Nebraska. You talk about a different world. The player to be excited about for you Cornhusker fans out there is Billy Kemp IV, the slot wide receiver, and he can also return punts. Played at Virginia for 5 years. Experienced kid, played 50 games, 25 starts. And he's got 1 season of eligibility left, but 192 career catches and 1,774 yards. That is going to be I'd be excited if I were a Cornhusker fan there. Also, MJ Sherman comes in to play linebacker. He was a player at Georgia. So you got 2 national rings to show everybody. Hey, look at my rings. I'm fancy. I won a championship. 2 years of eligibility left. And Marco Ortiz, he comes in as well, a safety, and the long snapper, and he comes from Florida. He's been there for 5 years. Purdue, they could be higher on this list. They've got quarterback Hudson Card coming from Texas, where he's backing up Quinn Ewers, and then Arch Manning comes, and so he saw the writing on the wall. He says, "Dude, I'm out of here. Let me go play for Ryan Walters at Purdue." So they're starting things new there. I see a lot of polls and a lot of lists. I do them as well. And we even rank quarterbacks here. And I saw somebody ranking Big Ten quarterbacks. They actually had Hudson Card number 1. I don't know. That's some pretty high praise with quarterbacks in the league. Most polls don't have him ranked that highly. He's kind of a question mark. We'll see how he does. But I think he'll do all right at Purdue. He'll have left guard Jalen Grant from Bowling Green protecting him up front. Wide receiver Jamel Edrine. He's a redshirt sophomore from Florida Atlantic who had 39 catches, 570 yards, and 6 career touchdowns. A lot of good wide receivers lately at Purdue the past couple of years. So it's see if he just continues that trend. Both defensive ends are new. Jeffrey Emba, a 6'6", 313-pound kid from Auburn, comes in, and Malik Langham, who's been around at Vandy and Florida and finding a home in West Lafayette. Both corners are new. Now, look, Ryan Walters is the former defensive coordinator at Illinois. He knows defense. He wants to fix up the defense. So both ends are brand new from the portal, and both corners, Salim Turner, Muhammad from Stanford, and Marquise Wilson from Penn State. And then Daniel Hawthorne comes in from Missouri to help out the team as well. Minnesota, running back Sean Taylor from Western Michigan. In fact, we're going to go through these players for Minnesota, and it seems like the entire Western Michigan football team has transferred to Minnesota. Sean Taylor from Western Michigan, 2,800 yards in his career there, but he averaged 5.7 yards a carry. That is nothing to sneeze at. We'll see if he can do it in the Big Ten. Also 43 catches and 338 yards and 3 touchdowns on the backfield in his career. Slot receiver Corey Crooms Jr. comes from Western Michigan. Played 4 years there, 115 catches, 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns. Second team All-MAC. Pretty good. Middle linebacker Ryan Seelig, grad transfer from Western Michigan. 155 tackles and 5 years there. By the way, I tried to look this up before we took the airwaves for the podcast, but obviously the name Seelig in the state of Minnesota, I'm just curious if what his relationship is to Bud Selig. Is this a grandson? Is this a nephew? You guys that watch and are Minnesota fans, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter or on YouTube with your comments. I like to. I just couldn't find it before we started broadcasting. Right corner Trayvon Jones comes in from Elon, and nickelback Jack Henderson from Southeast Louisiana, shoring things up for Minnesota. And then finally, Illinois. Brett Bielema brings in Luke Altmaier, quarterback. Look, he's from Ole Miss. Had some interest out of high school for this guy. He hasn't played much. It's a big question mark. And you're bringing in a quarterback with a big question mark. I mean, some quarterbacks come in, they played X amount of years. You kind of know what they are. I don't know if we know what Luke Altmaier is yet. And so it's a bit of a gamble for a team that won 8 games last year to do this. But we'll see how Luke Altmaier does for Illinois. And then strong safety Nicario Harper comes in. He's bounced around from Louisville, Jacksonville State, and Southern Miss over the years. And that's it. Those are the key. I know it feels like I went through every one of them, but those are the key transfer portal kids from around the Big Ten. Again, Iowa, I think, did the best job. They got important talent in important positions. Nebraska, Jeff Sims, Billy Kemp. Jeff Sims, the big question mark. If he does well, that's going to be a maybe if Iowa wasn't my best pick here, maybe it'd be the Nebraska. Purdue, high volume, particularly on defense with Ryan Walters and, of course, Hudson Card at quarterback. Another team that did very well in the portal. Got the wide receivers at Maryland. That looks good. 26 guys from Tom Allen at Indiana. And, of course, Minnesota bringing in half the Western Michigan team. Those are just my thumbnail thoughts after going through all this. But I stand by it. I still think that Iowa did the best job to help them out this year in 2023. Again, hit me up with your comments. I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Every dayers, our next show, we'll take a look at who can win the Heisman. Who is a Heisman hopeful from the Big Ten? Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Again, we're trying to get that up over 2,000 real fast here. We're really, really close and would really appreciate your help. So share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. Coming up next, our weekly feature, our Big Ten Power Rankings. Who has the best defensive line in the Big Ten? I'm going to tell you next on Locked On Big Ten. All righty. Let's take a look at the Big Ten defensive line. Big Ten Power Rankings. If you're just listening on audio, I'm going to put up a graphic here. I'm going to explain it so you can visualize it. Otherwise, if you're watching on video, you will check it out. I'm going to put it up here, 1 through 10. Here we go. Big Ten top 10 best defensive lines. I have at the top Ohio State. JT Tuimoloau, first team all Big Ten. Very exciting player right there. And if I could, go 1.5 or maybe 1A or tied at 1, I would put Penn State. I got them at number 2. Chop Robinson, going to get a lot of attention at defensive end this year. Illinois, first team all Big Ten, top returning defensive lineman in the country, Zerhan Newton. Got them at number 3. That guy's going to go very high in the NFL draft. Iowa, defensive line, I got him at number 4. Look, I think Iowa's defense works on all 3 levels, and they all play together well. I think the defensive line is going to be very good this year. Michigan, I have them at number 5. Edge rusher Jalen Harrell, and he's all Big Ten honorable mention. Wisconsin at 6 with Gio Paez, the nose tackle, big space filler at 6'3", 320 pounds from Los Angeles. At number 7, Michigan State. Look, Mel Tucker, again, I mentioned this earlier, really made an effort to shore up the front 7, including the defensive line. I got them ranked 7th. Rutgers at number 8 with Isaiah Eaton coming in from Northern Colorado at 6'2", 290. At number 9, Nebraska. They got a couple of freshmen that you need to watch. I'm going to put them here in the top 10. I don't know how good they're going to be right away because they're freshmen and just they need to put on a few more pounds. But defensive end, Prince Will Uman-Malin, and defensive tackle Cameron Lenhart. Those 2 guys are going to be a special combo for the next several years at Nebraska. Keep an eye on them. And then rounding out the top 10, I got Indiana with the help of Andre Carter coming in from Western Michigan. I told you earlier, he was the stat filler. He got sacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, interceptions, safeties. He does it all. And he's going to do a great job at Indiana alongside Philip Bleedy, who comes in from Texas Tech. So there you have it. That is our Big Ten top 10, our best defensive line for this week in our power rankings. I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. You everydayers out there, I appreciate you so much. Our next show is going to take a look at Heisman hopefuls around the Big Ten. We'll see if your favorite player makes the list. Hopefully there will be a lot of them on that list. I'll save it for tomorrow. Many ways for you to interact with me. Hit me up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten or comments here on YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe. Help us push over that 2,000 mark here in the next week. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it's available each and every day. Now I'm inviting you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for checking us out. I can't wait to talk again tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.